Welcome back to the Passion and Persistence Podcast. I'm your host, Elaina Mitchell, and this podcast is dedicated to reminding you that with passion and persistence, anything is possible. So let's push through this together. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Passion and Persistence Podcast. I'm your host, Elaina Mitchell, and today's episode was crafted specifically for you, the viewer or listener. You probably have a huge vision in your head or heart, and maybe you're a little intimidated. Maybe you feel like you don't have all the pieces to the puzzle or the secret sauce to accomplish this, and I'm here to remind you that that vision in your head or heart was put there for a reason. You have a purpose inside of you, and today we're going to dive deeper into that. I'm here with Andrew Cadwell, owner of Cadwell Inc., and we're going to talk a little bit about his passion and persistence to get to where he is today. Welcome, Andrew.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, Elaine.
Thank you for being here. So before we dive into your story, I want to know, what is passion to you?
Passion to me is purpose, being able to live your purpose every single day. Absolutely.
And so with Cadwell Inc., first tell the audience what Cadwell Inc. is, and then let us know, do you feel like you're working in your purpose with that?
That's a great question. So Cadwell Inc., we have actually, it's a mother corporation, so we have a few companies under us. We are the #1 recycling company in the entire Caribbean, and we're quickly becoming one of the largest import-exporters for distribution. We mainly work with government utility companies to restructure our infrastructure for people.
Interesting. That's such a tight-knit market. How did you get into that?
That's a giant God story right there. Long story short, it's literally just I threw myself into it.
Really?
Well, the beginning, I had a dream.
Interesting. He had a dream, you guys.
And in the dream, that's actually why I wear this bracelet every single day. It's a little sign there of Haiti.
Wow.
And I remember I had this dream to be able to go to Haiti, and in the dream, it just told me, go. Don't have a plan, don't do anything. Literally just go. And he's gonna open all the doors. And I went there, I didn't have a translator, driver, hotel, I didn't have anything with me. But long story short, by day 2, I'm in the White House talking to the Secretary General. Apparently they also have a Minister of National Defense, even the President of Electricity and the President himself. It was an amazing, amazing time, and that's how the entire company started.
Interesting. That sounds kind of intimidating, walking into a room like that. So tell me, how did you feel the power to even enter that room or those kind of meetings?
You have to know who you are.
Exactly.
And I genuinely, I believe in God with all my heart. When I understand who I am, not just who I am in Christ, and this is not like a religious conversation by any means, but when you understand, look, I am going to bring value to you in every way, shape, and form. I belong in this room. You actually have to tell yourself this all the time. You have to believe this. When you believe this and people see how you carry yourself, they respect you. And I've just seen, when I was in that room, I belonged. And that was it.
It's the belief is everything. It's believing that you were created with a purpose is what gives you that power to approach
100%.
Those opportunities. So tell me more about your childhood and what got you into this mindset of wanting to own your own business.
I really wanted at first to take care of my mom.
Aww.
So my mom and I, we were homeless 4 times before the age of 18. We didn't have the most beautiful side of the tracks growing up here. We were in and out of battered women's shelters. I don't want to tell a sob story, but it was tough. Yeah. It was tough. There was many days that we didn't have food, we didn't have a place to stay, and those are the struggles that you come up with now. But because of that, I remember always telling my mom, I was 18 years old the last time that we lost our home. And I told my mom, I said, you know what, Mom, I'm going to work so hard that I'm going to take care of you one day. And I had to disappear. I had to disappear to work really hard. And I'm talking 80, 100-hour weeks trying to throw myself at things that I had no idea how to do. Guy at the time with no college education, I started at a marketing firm, of all places. What the heck do I have the ability to be in there? Everyone had master's degrees, everyone was 40, 50 years old, bunch of experience, and here I am 19, knowing nothing. My resume was hilarious when I walked in, and that's why you have to sometimes really believe it and not just fake it till you make it. That's a big thing. But I remember my resume, my buddy hooked me up with a job, and I had a piece of paper, and I handed my resume, and it said lifeguard for 6 years, and then it said little credentials, knows CPR. How the heck do I belong in a room, with those type of credentials? But once you move forward, that's it. Sorry, I'm fumbling a lot too.
No, that's okay. I think it's going well. So you've had a history of throwing yourself into arenas that maybe you didn't have all the answers to or all the knowledge in the world, but you were looking for opportunities and to learn, regardless of what arena you jumped into, right? So whether it be with the marketing thing and then you got into the recycling and disposables, but what led you there from the marketing side?
Well, you hit one point real quickly that was very interesting. You can't be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
And that to me is the most important thing. If you allow yourself to fail, you allow yourself to be put in certain scary situations, embarrassing situations that you're going to look like a fool because you don't know. Mm-hmm. That's how.
That is so true, and everybody listening right now really needs to rewind this and play that back 3 times, because you cannot be afraid to fail. Everybody that's at the top has failed and felt stupid probably more times than they can count. And what stops us after we fail and feel stupid is our ego. Now we're scared for people to judge us or for people to think XYZ about us, right? Mm-hmm. But when you can push past that fear and that failure, there is magical things on the other side, or miraculous, I should say. So very, very interesting. How long have you been in the field?
We started this about 7 years ago, and I'm seeing that every single day, every single year, we're adding more and more and more. It's funny. You have to be able to, I heard Will Smith say this one time, he said, you have to be able to fail forward.
Yes.
So we started selling material to electric utility companies, okay. Right? And I remember, this was hilarious. My very first cold call, I was never a salesman, right? I was always in operations before that. Like I said, I was a lifeguard. So what do I know?
Were you a real lifeguard?
Yeah, I really was.
Oh, cool. I was a lifeguard too.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I was a lifeguard. I started at the YMCA, and
oh, that's so cool.
I remember the little tubes.
The training was brutal for me.
Really?
Yeah. Anyways, go ahead.
Well, I mean, they don't really tell you, as sexy as being a lifeguard is, it's the most boring job in the world.
Yeah.
You have to sit in a chair and stare at people for 6 hours, saying nothing. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that's besides the point. So, how we started. I remember this, like I said, when you have a dream, when you have a purpose, when you have a plan, I remember I've said, you know what, I genuinely believe that I'm called to greater, I'm called to bigger, I want to be able to change the world, but how am I going to do that? Mm-hmm. So I remember I worked really, really hard for many, many years to be able to save up a little bit of money, and I had to cut my ego. I had to be able to say, you know what, I can either live a life like everyone else, mm-hmm. buy a home, get a car, have a nice shirt at the time, or I can swallow my pride and say, Mom, can I live here? Can I start my business out of your garage? And then I'm going to eat rice and beans until this makes it.
Exactly.
And I remember how it started was I threw myself on the phone. I was in my parents' garage, right? And my parents would just be so encouraging. It was really, really funny. They'd be like, they gave me a sign on the side, and it was like all the great companies that started in garages like Google, Apple, things like that.
Yeah.
Facebook. So we started there, and I remember I was on the phones just trying to call, and my very first phone call, watch this, my very first phone call, I wrote a script out because all of the Grant Cardone people said you have to write a script, so I wrote a script, and as I'm talking to the guy, I fumble, I'm nervous, I'm literally like, I'm so sorry, can I start over? I had to literally ask him, can I start my pitch over? The dude laughed, right? And then he said, you know what? Go ahead. And he became my very first client ever.
Oh, that's awesome.
And ever since then, I've just seen, sometimes you have to be able to allow yourself to be thrown into opportunities that you're not comfortable with. And you never know, even if you fail, what you're going to learn, who you're going to meet.
That's the key right there, is because when we get these big visions or dreams in our head that God placed for our purpose in life, we're not sure how to get there, where all the pieces are coming from. But if you can just go blindly with faith and do everything to the best of your ability wherever God leads you, it takes you to those bigger dreams and visions of what he put in your head and heart, right? Of who he made you.
You talked about faith here and what God and purpose and vision. I hear this all the time. especially from Christians, even non-believers, it doesn't matter. They always say, but I pray that this shows up in my hand. I pray that this happens. Lord, I pray for success. Go. What are you doing? I always hear prayer, I hear talk, I hear all this, but there's a certain level of action that needs to follow that. It's, God, bless my steps. Yes. I'm moving forward.
Exactly right. You have to know what to ask for. If you're asking just for the success, but for what? What are you going to do with that success? You have to get really detailed with your prayers and how you're talking to God. So when I ask God for big, amazing things in life, I explain to him what I'm going to do with those things. And then I fulfill that. You know what I mean?
So, but see, why ask? Watch this. I love hearing this, and these are certain things that people call it like self-fulfilling prophecies or mantras. I don't care what you say. You have to be able to utter things out loud, right? If you want something like enough, if you want success, if you feel like that is who you are, there's a vibrancy that you have to be able to put out there for it. You know, people talk about the law of attraction and speak it out into the universe. Whether it's universe or God, here's what I always say. You know what? People that tell me, you know, you have to speak it out to the universe. You have to be able to claim it. You have to be able to tell yourself this, and it will come to you. You know that I genuinely believe that? They're not half wrong.
Yeah.
So I remember when I talk to a lot of people, and I always see, you know, they have all these self-doubts. You have to be able to continuously say exactly what you want. This is what you said about a minute ago. You have to be specific in what you want. You have to be intentional in what you say all the time. And I remember one time I had a dream, and in this dream I saw everything, in a sense, was like all energy. Everything was black and everything was energy. And I see this one guy in front of me, and he was speaking. And as he was speaking, the words were coming out like this amber color, like energy looking color. The words were coming out of his mouth, and I didn't hear him. I saw energy, vibrancy, something was coming out, and everything that he was saying was being absorbed right around him, in the universe around him. It was being absorbed around that. And the second I woke up, I said, that had so much significance that I started saying, you know what? I have to speak positive of what I want. I have to be intentional of what I ask for. Even when in my prayers and everything that we do, it has to be spoken out loud. And the more you say it, guess what? The more it comes to you, the more it receives. People say speak it out to the universe. There's books on laws of attraction, but how a man thinketh, so is he, right? And that's exactly what it is. You have to speak things out loud, out of the heart, in a sense, the mouth speaks. Start speaking positive over you, over what you want to do in life, over the purpose that you're leading yourself into. And guess what? Slowly but surely, you're going to start getting there.
Exactly. And the thing about speaking positive and knowing who you are is there's going to be people that try to contradict who you believe you are or the positive things you say about yourself. And those people are going to come on your journey all throughout your climb to the top. You have to be able to combat them saying you're not going to make it or you're not going to do this. You have to be able to combat that and say, I know who I am. I know who God created me to be, and I know this is going to work. That's the difference. Some people believe the lies of the enemy, of somebody telling them you can't make it, you can't do that, and then they retreat, right? Have you ever faced that?
Have you? Absolutely. In fact, I used to love that.
Really?
You need fuel.
It's a different kind of energy, though,
yes.
when you're using the fuel from let me show them instead of let me help them. You get what I'm saying?
Yes. But what I'm trying to get at is use anything that's coming your way. If it's negative, if it's positive, whatever it is, if it's fear, anxiety, if it's a positive or negative stressor, you have to be able to use whatever you have given to you as fuel to move forward.
Absolutely.
That's part of your motivators.
I love what you just said, even the fear side. So it's interesting, driving here, every time I know I'm about to go on camera, my heart starts to flutter a little bit, and driving here, it started to happen. And I took a deep breath and I told myself, I love that feeling. And I almost just like ate it up, like I love being scared and nervous. And it shifted the feeling from I'm scared to this is what I like, is this feeling. You know what I mean? So you have to change what it means when you're feeling that way.
You have to feel it. You know, fear is actually a good thing.
I agree.
If you didn't have any fear, you'd have no respect, or the word is reverence, to what you're doing. Mm-hmm. But when you feel fear, like you said, you're coming in, that heart palpitation happens, and then you kind of feel a little stomachy thing going on.
Instead of running from it, you absorb it, you accept it, you embrace it.
Have you heard singers? Exactly. Like you've heard singers that said, look, just get on stage and start singing. And then eventually those little butterflies go away. So I've spoken hundreds of times publicly on stage, and I remember, like, I'll have these mics and my hands would be shaking, and oh my gosh, I've learned I can't hold any paper, especially a Bible. I can't do it because you're gonna see this, like, this flutter. Now I'm a little more comfortable, which is good, but that initial fear creates respect for what you're doing.
Yes.
I bet you practice your craft.
Absolutely.
Every day, right?
Absolutely,
I'm sure.
yeah.
And because of that, you're going to where you want to go. This isn't by accident. What you're doing in your life right now is not by accident. It's 100% on purpose. And right now you're allowing your fear. You're not allowing your fear to stop you. You're allowing your fear to motivate you.
Absolutely. So anybody listening and watching right now, this is just a reminder to you to take action towards these huge dreams and goals, no matter how scary they're feeling, even if you don't know all the answers to the puzzle or how you're going to get there. Ask for the guidance, ask for the answers, and be so confident in who you are and who you were created to be and how you're supposed to serve this world, and just go attack it and go after it. And that's exactly what Andrew's done with Cadwell Inc. And so tell us more about the direction that you're headed with that company.
You know, it's so funny. I've learned this how corrupt this world really can be, and it's really sad to say that the leaders at the top are not always in it for the people. They're in it for themselves. And so let me put it to you like this: our goal is to develop as much strength in the industrial world, in the sense that we have control over certain commodities, shipping, electricity, food. And by doing these things, we're genuinely in it to help people. So, for example, when we do recycling, we've seen that in the Caribbean, the life expectancy, from what I heard one time, something like in their mid-50s. And when you're looking at the environment, their waste management, they have none typically. And these landfills are catching on fire every single day. Now, you're also seeing the water runoff, the leaching into their underwater streams or into their oceans where they're eating this food, they're drinking the water, you know, and we're seeing, like, when you're seeing these fires, and I'll show you crazy fires that they have to evacuate entire cities and towns around the landfill. It's really, really sad. So the biggest thing that we're trying to do there is, if we're able to do these environmental cleanups, literally take out, remediate entire landfills, teach a man to fish, show them how to recycle, how to handle things properly, sustainably, we're creating jobs, hundreds and hundreds of jobs per country that we're in, which is amazing, right? Now we're teaching people how to create a value in things like plastic. And so here's the funny thing. When you start something in business, you never know. Someone told me that where you start, don't always think that's going to be where you finish. We started off as a distribution company, right? If God has a great purpose and a plan for you, which I believe He has for everyone, I didn't know where we'd be here today. We started selling things. But because I remember I'd be thrown into opportunities, I'm not going to say no. Right? If you get the opportunity to meet somebody, you better go.
Yeah. And
I've spent the time and the money just to shake someone's hand for 10 seconds.
Yep. Same.
10 seconds.
Same.
I just want to see you.
Exactly.
But now, because of that, we are now shipping over 2,000 containers a year, right? We're importing and exporting that. What does that mean? Now we're able to move material left and right. Now, as a primary shipper for waste, bringing it back into the United States as a recycler, right? Now we're sending things back out there because our shipping costs are so low. We're able to help people's businesses. Watch this. When we're able to ship fuel to certain countries, that means that not only their car prices for fuel, gassing up is cheaper, their electric bills are a lot lower.
Wow.
So when you're putting those thousands of dollars back into someone that's only making a couple thousand a year, that's a lot of money in their pocket that they're not paying.
Yeah.
So we've seen that we're helping more people in more ways than one. With the waste management side, it's the electricity, food, even clothes. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it's a ripple effect, and you have to find that root problem to create that ripple effect. And I feel like that's what you did with Cadwell Inc. And it took some time to get there. You did not know that's where you were going to go. And that's another thing I want to drive home to anybody listening or watching. I've said it before on this episode. You're not going to have all the answers. You're not going to have all the pieces to this puzzle. You just have to take action. You'll be placed in the right rooms, the right opportunities, if you have the courage to go when you feel that push to go, or to speak up when you feel that push to say something. You have to be confident to do those actions.
Oh, absolutely.
And so the meetings that you've been in with some powerful people, did any of those fail? Or we don't have to talk about that on this episode.
No, we absolutely should.
Because that might be scary, right?
Failure is something that needs to be talked about, especially for like entrepreneurs.
Absolutely.
It's the pain, the fear, the stress, the tears that you go through. Yeah, I think failure is an amazing thing to talk about. No one talks about the pain. They talk about the car and the house and the life and great. You don't know what it took to look this good. Does that make sense?
Exactly.
You don't know the sleepless nights that we had to undergo to get to where we're at today. So did we ever have failing meetings? I would say, I don't ever want to call it a failure. I don't know why. It's just, I don't know if it's like a mantra thing in my mind. I don't ever call anything necessarily a failure.
Perfect.
I've just seen it's a lesson.
Yeah.
And I learned somebody's culture, somebody's character. I learned something about that country, how that president or prime minister thinks, or even that king or queen thinks. Like I've never seen a failure. I've just seen a lot of people get in their own way. So this is the biggest problem I've seen. Even countries, even big, powerful people, they have a lot of talk. Everyone has a lot of talk, but very little action.
I couldn't agree more. I have worked with some pretty big names in the business world, and they're just like you and me. They're at higher levels, but they have issues and flaws and have their own talks, you know, without the action. And it's interesting to see that in powerful people, and it reminds us we're all the same. We're all human. We all have the potential to be powerful.
It's funny. I've heard. It's like, what's the difference between you and Beyonce? You know, we all have the same exact 24 hours in a day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The only difference I've seen is people that are dedicated toward their craft, that they live, breathe, and eat this. Like I was mentioning about you earlier, that this is what you do. You're not in a 40-hour a week 9 to 5 job.
No, this is fun for me. This is like everything to me.
This is you.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
So when you wake up, this is who you are. When you go to sleep, this is who you are. When you're posting all day long, this is who you are.
All day long, hey!
It's not a bad thing, because it's you knowing your passion is to help influence people in a positive direction.
Yes.
So you're living your purpose.
Absolutely.
That's an amazing. More people need to actually do that.
Yeah, and to your point of what's the difference between Beyonce and anybody, is we have to look at these stars and celebrities and people in power just like they're you and I. Since I was a kid, I've looked at people on TV and thought to myself, they're just like me. Have you done that too?
What do they call it, gentrification or something like that, where they put people like in your areas? I grew up very, very poor. Okay. So yes, I remember I'd always be around very wealthy people. I would do anything to be able to get around you for 5 minutes. I remember the very first wealthy guy I ever met. His name was Rocco. And I would literally just say, hey, can I wash your car? And I would ask him questions for 5 minutes, you know? Or even I've had mentors growing up that I would say, hey, you know what? Can I mow your lawn? Can I do something for you? Can I add value to you so that I can learn, right? And as I did, I got to literally absorb that from them. And because I saw you made it, that tells me I can too.
Absolutely. And there's power in proximity, of being in the same energy of those powerful people, even when you feel below them. Social media has actually changed the game to be able to connect with powerful people from all around the world that you'd never see walking down the street or bump into at the supermarket. There are millionaires that you can connect with and make authentic connections with just through social media. And that's really what shifted business networking in general and opening our eyes to different worlds that we're just not used to. Because a lot of us grew up in poverty or in neighborhoods where we didn't see nice cars driving down the street. So we don't even know it's possible to get there until we see it. So has social media changed the game for you in any way with business or your own self-development?
Not yet.
Not yet, okay.
Not yet.
You're just diving into that, right?
Yeah, well, social media, I mean, my background was in marketing.
Okay.
But the one thing that I would say for me about social media, I had to let it go with a lot of my past friends, because I'm just seeing that they're living their same lives that they did 15 years ago.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm seeing a lot of friends that, like, when I go on, I'll say, man, like, your life just has not changed. And to me personally, that did not encourage me at all. In fact, I had to do one thing, and somebody actually told me once, you have to sometimes let go of those friends and those people around you that just aren't helping you get to where you want to go tomorrow. And you mentioned about in social media how you have access now to mentors. Just because they don't know you, you don't know them personally, doesn't mean they're not your leader. You're not your mentor.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
But when you surround yourself with where you want to be one day, you will naturally, quickly become that.
Or surpass that. Sometimes
yes.
you surpass the mentor or the coach.
Yes.
So yeah.
Can we talk about surpassing real quickly?
Absolutely.
And I do want to talk a little bit about having to let go of like even certain people, certain things in your life, but surpassing dreams. So the funny thing is, growing up, I would always have this dream, and I have to tell you a quick story about a restaurant, my first restaurant I ever went to. I remember it. But I remember I would always drive every single day to West Palm Beach, and I would drive around Worth Avenue, and I'd go around all these restaurants, and I was very, very poor at the time. And I would always say, God, one day I want to be so successful that I can eat here. I want to try this food one time. I want to be able to shop here. And that was so limiting in my prayer. It was so limiting in a goal. And it's so funny how quickly that was obtained. And once I got there, now what? Now what? What's next? So now I'm seeing we have to dream bigger. Dream bigger. You have to think bigger. You have to think past your limitations. Like, what do you want to do? And what's greater than that? And there's another saying. It's almost like this. It's where shoot for the stars. And even if you land on the moon, you're a lot further than you would have ever imagined.
Absolutely. Amen to that. This is such a powerful discussion. I feel like you are changing so many lives with your testimony and all of the encouraging feedback that you're helping viewers and listeners with. So if anybody out there watching or listening right now is unsure of what their purpose or passion might be, what would you tell them?
What would I tell them?
They just don't know. Who am I? What am I supposed to do in this world? Why am I here?
What makes you happy?
Interesting.
What makes you happy?
Yeah.
What makes you move? I've seen a lot of people, a lot of young people now. They're always chasing the money because of what they see on social media or what they see in a movie. They think money's going to make them happy. I guarantee you, I know more unhappy, wealthy people because in order to get to this level, right? You've had to do things that you've never thought you'd have to do. You've had to struggle. You've had to cry. You've lost friends. People use you a lot. Money is not going to make you happy. I guarantee. I'm trying to tell you, it's the opposite. I put me toe to toe with anybody that succeeded and tell me that they're happy because of the money. Yeah, you can do a lot of fun things, but it's not going to get you there. What genuinely makes you happy? Like, for example, for me, I love helping children. When I remember one time, and I didn't really tell this to anybody because I don't believe that every single time you give, you should tell, you should boast it.
Right.
But there's this church, they were doing a back to school drive. And I remember growing up, we didn't have money for food, let alone shoes or booklets or pencils. So when I was a little kid, even a pencil was a luxury, right? And so we got to a point that even during a downturn in the business, the whole COVID economy nonsense, I said, you know what? Kind of like scared money don't make no money. I said, we're going to give. Right now, we're going to give. We're going to literally sow seed in a sense, right? I'm not going to be scared, and I'm just going to push forward. I have to bless somebody. Why? It makes me happy. And if I'm able to be happy, it'll also change your mindset.
Yes.
So I remember, watch this. I please allow me to tell this story. It's amazing. I remember we gave a certain amount of donation, right? And I told them, do not tell anyone who this came from. I want nobody to know. And what they did was we were able to help 400 kids go back to school. They gave them for middle school, elementary, and high schools. We put all the annual school supplies in a backpack. We brought them food. We got them haircuts. We brought doctors, PAs, nurses, to be able to give physicals because sometimes they can't afford to go to the doctor to get a physical test. We even brought face painters for fun. It bounced houses all over the place. I mean, it was an amazing thing. All of that was cool. But you know what the biggest blessing was? I was in the back and I was wearing glasses, a hat, and a mask. It was during COVID, and I was in the back of the auditorium, and I see a mother and her daughter grab their little pink JanSport backpack that we got, and She grabs it and she's right next to me. Nobody knows it's me. I'm in the back by myself, like just watching, observing. She opens up the backpack, looks like with absolute shock. And then the mother starts crying. And the daughter wanted to see why the mother's crying. So she goes in there and pulls out a regular white binder. And I'm talking about like $1, $1.99 binder, right? She pulls out a binder of all things. She grabs a binder like a little doll, looks up in the sky and says, "Thank you so much. I really needed this."
Oh, wow.
I'm so glad I was wearing glasses because like tears started coming down my face. Like, that's my why.
Exactly.
That's my why. One day, I want a kid to be able to hug me because they said, "Thank you. You sent me through college. Or, thank you. My life was changed. I was able to go to school. I have shoes now. I ate today."
Yeah.
I've been taken care of from that point. I've had people that, growing up, they didn't know that when they bought me lunch, that was my only meal of the day. I remember my own pastor one time bought me shoes, and he didn't know that. He got mad when he saw me playing soccer in those shoes one time, and I'm not a big soccer player, but he didn't know that those were my only pair of shoes that I had for 2 years straight. So now that, I genuinely believe that I've been taken care of, not only by my mother, but by God in many other situations in life, it's time to give back. And when you do, that's the biggest blessing. So to your first question, you have to be able to find your why through what makes you happy.
Absolutely. I love that answer. You have such a fire inside and a burning purpose to help, and it's just so infectious. I can't thank you enough for sharing your story. I really, really appreciate you being here, and I know that so many people got so much value from this. So thank you. Is there any way that the audience can follow you on your journey? Where would they follow you at?
Well, we actually will be starting actually really blowing up right now on social media. So on my Instagram as well as my company web pages, it's Cadwell Team as well as Andrew.Cadwell. And or they can actually follow our journey now that we just added a whole new website, and we're going to start showing what we've been doing over the last 7 years. So it's cadwellinc.com.
Awesome. Definitely go check out that website. Follow Andrew on social media. It's Andrew Cadwell. And thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me. This has been so awesome, and I really do genuinely hope that your audience starts seeing the passion that you have in doing this, and the time that you spend in doing this, and you live it, by the way. You're actually changing people's lives.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. And I really appreciate everybody that took the time to watch and listen to this episode. Thank you so much for being here. We're here to remind you that with passion and persistence, anything is possible. See you next time.
The Passion and Persistence podcast was created to remind you that with passion and persistence, anything is possible. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to share this episode with your friends and family, and make sure to subscribe so that you know when we're dropping the next episode.